Hello. Today I don't have any notes. I'm just going to talk off the top of my head, going deeper into one of the concepts of the Toltec teachings. So if you're not interested in the Toltec teachings, click off now. If this is instructions on how to escape from any trap. In the Toltec teachings, they talk about something called a wild card, and that this wild card enables you to escape out of any trap. See, I said it 3 or 4 times. How does this actually work? It doesn't actually give you step-by-step directions or maybe how this would play out in the real life. And I, like many people, was raised on kung fu movies and debating with my friend for many minutes the Shaolin monks and the Shaolin temple. Karate Do, My Way of Life, great book. I might actually review that later. So when we think about battle and we think about traps, we think about physical traps, being stuck in a jail or fighting someone on the road. I can assure you that when Pai Mei shows up on the road, you're not going to know. You're not going to know because you're just thinking about you have a worldview of what a battle and what a wild card and what a trap means. You need to tear down this worldview. That's what the Toltec teachings are about, tearing down your worldview. So for me, this is how I specifically interpret what a wild card means. For me, a wild card is a phrase that will enable you to escape a boring conversation. Because what are the traps that we find ourselves in? It's nice to think about the exotic form of what a trap is, right? You're a detective, you're a Shaolin monk, you're a ninja, you're gonna get trapped, you're Indiana Jones and you gotta find the bag of dirt that weighs as much as the idol. No. Most of the time, our battles are going to be with petty tyrants, which I also call narcissists, and they're going to try and trap us in conversations and drain our energy and make us confused and provoke emotions. Because what is a narcissist but an emotional vampire? And these emotional vampires, I estimate that 70% of the population out there is narcissistic because our society depends on narcissism. It depends on you being told you're inadequate and let me sell you the solution. And we're all concerned about how we look and how we're perceived. I can assure you, if you want to escape any trap, one of the things you're going to have to do is not care about what you say so much. You have to be classy, sure, impeccable. You have to not care what people think about you, and you have to not care what you need to do to get out of the trap. And so this breaks down your worldview of what a conversation could be, what something that you need to say should be. And let's tie it into another Toltec concept called not doing. Not doing doesn't mean staying silent. It means to not do what you usually do. So if you just usually agree, if you just stay silent, that is actually your doing. Whatever you habitually do, whether you're laying on the couch, whether you're avoiding your challenges, or whether you're just not talking to someone, that is your doing, if that's what you habitually do. And so me personally, I would always just agree, yes, I was never allowed to have an opinion in the environment that I was in. So I just had to agree. And so for me, that was my doing. And to not do, I had to figure out, I also have autism, low social skills, low EQ. It took me so long to figure these things out. And it started with not caring, not doing, saying something that I'm supposed to do. So specifically, a wild card. There are wild cards. These are statements, phrases. You should come up with your own list of wild cards. I'm going to provide a list of wild cards in the description box or pin it to the first comment because these are fun. This is the fun side of the Toltec teachings, okay? Guys, believe me, because when you are able to tip someone's mind over from trying to get you into being confused and running away, it is the greatest feeling in the world. And I can assure you that it's not going to be easy. You have to spend a long time observing and thinking, and then you have to try and do, and you're going to fail, and you're not going to do anything great, and you'll mess up, but that's when you go back and you reanalyze and recapitulate everything and figure out where you went wrong. But these phrases that I'm going to post below and articulate some of them are very easy to memorize. I keep a list on my phone so that I can extricate myself from any situation, any trap. So first of all, if you're talking on the phone, I avoid the phone like the plague. If you're talking on the phone and you're in a conversation with someone, your mom or whoever you don't like, you don't want to be in this conversation. Say something about, when you answer the call, say something about my battery's dead, I'm about to drive in a dead zone, so if I cut off, just, we'll catch up later, I'll text you later. And that way you have an excuse. If you're introverted, autistic, clumsy, awkward, weird, a dweeb, me too. We've got to learn skills to pay the bills, guys. And one of those things starts with setting expectations. That's kind of a wild card, setting expectations. I don't have a lot of time. What do you got to say? I got 2 minutes. Or my phone's almost dead, blah, blah, blah. So if you choose to answer the phone, you can choose to set expectations at the beginning of the phone call. And I think setting expectations is such a great thing to do. The other thing, here's a wild card that we all know. These aren't the droids you're looking for. And sometimes you can actually say that to someone and it will work. Your mileage may vary, and that's the thing. I can't tell you what the situation's going to be. You need to look and observe and be aware of the situation. And when you start getting frustrated, when you start getting bored, and when you figure that this person is trying to get something from you, that is the time to pull out your wild card and make your escape. Before we get into more phrases, here's another concept, the Irish goodbye. Holy moly, I have been an Irish goodbye person since I was born. An Irish goodbye is where you leave a party without saying goodbye to somebody because you get trapped into having all of these conversations as you're trying to go out the door. When I discovered the name for it, I went, oh my goodness, that is the name for it. It exists. So don't ever be ashamed of doing an Irish goodbye. If you're at a boring party and you don't really respect these people, an office party, just fine. You have to use awareness to see this wild card, but you're going to see a place where you can just leave. A couple months ago, I was watching a street parade, and I was actually just chilling and talking with some people that I had just met. But at the end of it, I didn't want to say goodbye to them. I just wanted to disappear because I fancy myself somewhat of a magician, and magicians are very frugal with their appearance in public and, all this stuff. So we were all just sitting there with the parade, and then I looked to my left and I saw that there was a parting in the crowd, and I said, that's my cue. And I just walked away without saying goodbye. So the Irish goodbye, keep that in your pocket. Keep that in your pocket because you don't have to say goodbye. You don't have to hang out. You don't have to be trapped in boring conversations. Okay, so I usually use my wild cards when I am in a boring political conversation. If someone says I'm on this side, I say something, I agree with them, and then I say that I don't like something from the other side. I like to continuously point out that the two political parties are not serving the citizens. I don't even want to go into it. I'll just start monologuing like a bad guy. But I'm not bad guy. I'm a bad guy, but I'm not bad guy. You get it? So anyway, the political parties aren't serving us. And so I am open to hearing anyone's criticism of either side, and then I'm gonna just say, well, what about this one? That's a wild card because that kind of calms them down, and usually they'll say, yeah, you're right. Anytime someone is getting heated, you will need your wild cards so that you can escape. Remember that being alive is always going to be better than anything else. Your priority when we're thinking about traps, whether they're social traps or actual traps or mind traps is important. Survival is always the main game. It's just, you gotta get whatever gets you through the night, baby. Whatever gets you through the night. So a wild card could be one of my personal favorites. I think this is something from Tony Robbins. I remember this from a long time ago. So this one is a 1 or 2 use wild card. Very important. If someone's getting heated and any conversation with a narcissist is useless. You cannot win with a narcissist. They will they will tear your entire world down to be right. And so you do not try and prove your argument. Do not try to win. Do not try to get them to agree with you. Your only objective when trapped in a heated conversation with a narcissist is to escape. And a couple of times this one has saved my butt. I don't get into these conversations very much anymore, so I'm having a hard time reaching back and thinking because I've orchestrated my life to be in harmony. But there was a time when I had no choice. And so arguments start getting heated. You realize there's no point to this conversation. There's no winning. There's no nothing. You just go, I think you need to wash your hands. What? They'll say, what? Yeah, I think you just need to wash your hands. Okay, it's always good to wash your hands, health. If they start arguing with you, say, you know what? I need to wash my hands. And go wash your hands. And as you wash your hands, all of the muck and spiritual darkness they try to put on you, imagine that going down the drain. That's a very powerful visualization. You may not remember in the moment. Just try to remember. I think you need to wash your hands. And you will be surprised how many people will do this. A lot of narcissists are fastidious. One of the narcissists I knew, every time he had a BM, he would take a shower. And so this is preying on the narcissist's fear of germs. You know, if someone's a hypochondriac, start coughing. That's a wild card. You know, and then I have other nonsensical phrases like, you know, someone says, if only we could just get the Cheeto out of the White House, we could do everything we need to do. And then you say, and then the wolves came. You don't have to make sense. You are under no obligation. That is a wild card of a concept. You are under no obligation to sit there and take it unless you have to, unless it's a survival thing. You don't have to endure this conversation. You don't have to agree with this conversation. But if you can't judo it away, say something nonsensical. That is a wild card. Now, here we go. We're getting to your mind. You have to throw wild cards into your mind, because you're going to get stuck in loops. I don't know, what should I do? Should I do this? Should I do that? Or when you start to feel like you're like, why did this happen to me? If something happened to you and you're asking why, here's the best wild card. Say thanks. Say thanks. Because whatever happens to you is there for your growth, is there for how you're supposed to be. So just accept it, say thanks, and figure out how to get out of this. Because the most deadly traps are in your mind. The most deadly traps are embedded within your worldview. I have to be a good child. I have to be a devoted mother or wife. You know, these are concepts that we all think should be true, but they may not have to be true. You should always try and get out of any mental traps. If you feel trapped, learn your own wild cards. There is a combination of words. Read quotes. Read the aphorisms of the Toltecs. Read quotes of Gene Wolfe. These are wild cards that will get you out of these loops in your mind, because I've been stuck in loops in my mind for many, many years. Many, many loops, many wild cards. You know, in the final reckoning, the enemy is you. The enemy is you and your false beliefs about what's here. And so as you go out and try and play these wild cards gently, impeccably, with sobriety, fearfulness, wide awake, you can't just do what you feel. It takes a long, long time of practice before you can act on your feelings. So I would recommend that you just use these wild cards, look at the ones below, come up with your own wild cards, come up with your own quotes to yourself. I mean, a lot of people do John 3:16. I think it's overrated, overused, but there are Bible passages. You know, when I feel down and when I feel in a loop and when I feel that I can't win, I remember what Jesus said. He said, greater things than this you will do. And no matter what I believe about everything, I believe Jesus is part of it, just like everything. Greater things than this you will do. Is it not written in your law? I have said you are God's. And I go, yeah. Because anyone who believes in God is as powerful as a God. So what God do you believe in? So I say to myself, well, if I believe in God, it's one, you know, all I need is one. So that's how I get out of my mental traps. Or I say, you know, I use discrimination, I compare, I check in. But these are all wild cards these are all what I think of as wild cards. It could be a funny phrase to get you out of a boring conversation. It could be something motivational to get you out of a loop. It could be observation of your environment and analyzing your patterns of failure so that you can create your own wild card. So one of the purposes of my videos, all of my videos, this is a wild card, and I have a actual intention that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to dream true to the purpose, as it says in the Toltec teachings, but how do I interpret that? So I'm going to do a video about that someday, but we'll see. So if you have any wild cards that you can think of, please leave a comment below. If you have a scenario that you would like to say, how can I come up with a wild card? Maybe we can figure it out together. I'm reaching across the aisle. Intelligent cooperation. I want to intelligently cooperate with men, with women, with whoever shows up here and has a question. And there you go. That is the autistic explanation of what a wild card is, because I didn't see very much about it in the Toltec teachings in the books. I have escaped many, many traps. This is a woman speaking of experience. I have escaped so many traps you wouldn't believe it. So maybe you should give some of my techniques a try, or maybe you can share some of yours. So what should I say before I kick off? Like, hey, if you're still here, thanks for that. And you should also listen to the music of Crass, because they're awesome. They have a lot of good wisdom in there. So until next time, programs, end of line.